2000, we bought an abandoned 100-acre farm in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. We spent years cleaning it up, built a new house, and now are trying to make it a functional homestead farm. Welcome to Red Tool House.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to Red Tool House. No, that's not the fog moving in. We have not moved to San Francisco. We are doing the first test burn of our maple sap boiler here. If you're just joining us for the first time, there's some background videos that give an idea of what's going on here. So if you go up here, you can see a link to us creating this evaporator. And it shows details of how I built this using the barrel, the camp stove kit, getting the trays, the smokestack, all that. And then if you want to go here, you can see the video of us tapping our maple trees to get our sap. The sap is stored right here in this IBC tote. Okay, so what's going to happen first? Well, you may be wondering, why in the world is Troy doing this in the barn? Isn't that dangerous? Yes, absolutely. I would not recommend having an open fire in your barn. But for some reason, unbeknownst to me, our homestead has been magically transported to the Amazon rain basin. It has not stopped raining. It has rained nonstop for days. In fact, I think the forecast calls for rain the next 15 days. It's ridiculous. My pigs are growing web feet. So I'm right here on the lip of my barn, so I can be undercover. But I've tried to push back as much hay, sawdust, dry dirt, all that as I can. But I've even wet the floor down. You brought some water in to wet that down because, man, it's not worth getting a half gallon of maple syrup if you burn your entire barn down. So not a good plan. So right now I've got a fire going. I'm trying to burn, just kind of burn all the junk out of this barrel. This is the first time firing it up. See how it's going to draw. Obviously I cut a lot of holes in this to put these trays in there, and there's some smoke coming up around. Hey, there's a light. Woo! Must be dark. So there's a lot of holes I've cut around here, so some smoke is escaping that way. But as I get a better fire going on here, it's not really hot yet, then it should start drawing up that stack. That's a little smoky. Well, as I mentioned before in my previous videos, this is the first time doing this. So please don't think that I'm an expert at this, and you may look at this and laugh and think, well, that was dumb. And you'd probably be right. But if you have any suggestions, please feel free to leave them in the comments section below. I have to say, when we did our tree tapping video, somebody responded by the name of Vermont Maple Man and gave me some really good pointers. And I would be a fool not to recognize advice from somebody with the name of Vermont Maple Man. Unless he likes maple furniture, then I assume that he knows what he's talking about when it comes to maple syrup. And he pointed out probably one of the biggest fallacies I have in storing the sap. That, according to his advice and then what I've read up on afterwards, that you have about 3 to 5 days of viability of your sap once it comes out of the tree. So storing it in the IBC tote should only be a temporary thing. Now I'm going on, I poured it in the tote about 4 days ago. And if you can't boil it down immediately, they suggest refrigerating it, possibly even freezing it. Well, fortunately have had some pretty cool temperatures. We've been below freezing and just right at freezing. Today was our warmest day. So I'm going to try to get some of this boiled down. He suggested looking at the sap. If it's cloudy, then it's starting to spoil. You can taste it. If it has a funny taste to it, then it's starting to turn. I tasted some of this. Again, I'm not quite sure what tree sap tastes like. It doesn't taste funny to me. It tasted like water with just a hint of flavoring. One other key thing that was pointed out to me by multiple people, and I apologize for not having this in our tapping video, is using food grade buckets. You want to use food grade buckets. I have the orange Homer buckets, and that's what I tapped in. And to be honest with you, it was just a matter of convenience. I couldn't find any food grade locally. When I looked online to order them, how long it was going to take and the cost, so that I got to get this going. So if I was going to package this and sell it, then I definitely would have to go with food grade. But I need to pour from my food grade bucket into my food grade IBC tote and then cook down in my stainless steel trays. So just consider that if you're doing this. You want to buy food grade everything. So what's our objective here with this process? Well, it really is a simple process as far as the mechanics and everything that's going on here. Obviously, fire, water, boil. Obviously, we want to get a good fire going, get a boil rolling. on these trays. Now, again, there's different schools of thought. As I discussed in the video where we built this evaporator, is that some people do one big tray so they have more surface area to get that sap boiling faster. Or I've seen where people use two trays, and the plan is if I'm going to use the front tray is where I want to get the boil established. The back tray is kind of the preheater, so it's going to warm up. Obviously it's going to get hot too, but as I add more sap, I'm adding it to just this back tray. And then I'm ladling out of this tray into this tray once this is hot. So it's kind of those things to keep from killing my boil here. If I just poured 40-degree sap right into this tray, then and filled it back up again, that's really going to kill the boil. I got to wait for it to come back up again. So I want to just keep ladling over the warmer sap into this tray that's boiling. So what's the objective? Well, again, I've never done this before, so this is more of an experiential video than it is a how-to video. My understanding is I want this front tray to get to 7 degrees above the boiling point of water. Obviously, depending on your elevation. For us, boiling water is what, 210, 212, somewhere around in there. So using a candy thermometer, I will keep track of this and see when we get to that temperature, then I know I'm dealing with some syrup there. And I even read where people take it in and kind of finish it off inside. You kind of finish off that boil while you're inside the house there. Speaking of inside the house, one thing you do not want to do is you do not want to do this process inside. Do not take 5 gallons or 20 gallons or 80 gallons of sap in the house and expect to do this over the stove. The reason why is it's going to take a lot of energy to do that, but you are going to absolutely coat the inside of your house with a sticky steam. It's going to coat your walls, it's going to coat everything. I read where somebody said that it even peeled their wallpaper off the wall. So definitely something you want to do outside. If you imagine that the sap ratio that we're dealing with here, the majority of this came from sugar maples, so it's a 40-to-1 ratio. So it takes 40 gallons of sap to produce 1 gallon of maple syrup. With red maple or any of the other maples, it's about a 60-to-1. So you're looking at 60 gallons for 1 gallon of syrup. So you can imagine if you had 5 gallons or you had 20 gallons and you just kept adding it to your stovetop inside your house, all of that moisture has to go somewhere. So that steam is going to go inside your house and it's going to coat everything. So that's why you want to do this outside. And obviously just the scale of it. You can imagine the amount of BTUs coming off of just this little tiny barrel burner compared to the BTUs you're going to get off a stovetop. So it'd take you forever to do it. This is going to speed that process up and obviously keep from destroying your house in the process. Okay, so we got a boil going finally, and I discovered my my door, the little damper down here, really doesn't draw well. So leave the door open to get a good draw and get the fire built up. But ironically, I thought the front, just thinking the front would be my boiler and this would be my preheater, and I'd move stuff over. It's actually the opposite. The way the fire's going and the way it's drawing, it's making the back tray hotter. So I've got a rolling boil here, but haven't started getting a boil in the front pan yet. So that's going to be the heater, and this is going to be the boiler. So this is boiling pretty good. So I'll spare you all the details in the next 9 hours. All right, so we're going to ladle some off. Again, what I read is, obviously as it boils down, you start to get this color. It's going to start turning golden and more maple syrup color, obviously. So I can see just a little slightest hint, just the weakest browning that you could see there. So again, still not really boiling in this first tray. And obviously if I had that door closed and let that fire build up, then that could possibly get this rolling, but I don't know. I don't know if I'd end up trading that off for the good draw I'm getting. So I'm just going to go ahead and ladle some over into the definitely need to invest in a metal ladle. Again, the whole process, the whole purpose of doing this is not to lose my boil, my rolling boil on my back tray. Hopefully the burning paint off the side of the barrel won't affect the flavor of our first batch of syrup. may have something to do with it. Well, it's about midnight and I'm tired. I'm going to bed. So I'm letting this fire die down. And actually I have about maybe just a little over a gallon out of the 10 gallons I started with. And they got a nice golden color to it, looking kind of syrupy colored. But I'll be able to take that in. I've got a pot. I'm going to pour that in and take it up to the house, be able to finish it tomorrow on the stove. One thing I had to do, and I realized, is as I transferred everything from my preheater pan to my actual boiler, that once I got down to having all of it out of the preheater and didn't have any more sap to put in, and obviously I wanted to keep that tray there so all my heat didn't escape, so I just poured regular water, just put some water in that pan to keep from burning the pan up. So that's one thing to consider, and make sure that I had some clean water to put in there. So it looks like it's going pretty good. I'm excited with the outcome. So after a lot of sap boiling, I have about 30 gallons of sap reduced down to about 1.5, maybe 2 gallons. It looks, if I had to guess, maybe 1.5 gallons. So I brought it inside, put it in my big brew pot here, and I could continue to render this down or boil it down. Some others that at my first test run I've got in the fridge. Actually what I'm going to end up doing is just putting this in the fridge and refrigerating all this until the season's done for me. Again, the scale that I'm doing it, it's not like I've got to store gallons and gallons. So as I'm still getting more sap and we'll have additional time to boil down, I'm just going to collect all this and put it in the refrigerator and then do the final boil. So again, this is new to me. So what I'm doing is, as I've read on this, there's times that you want to do filtration. You can use coffee filters. You can do, you can actually get some maple syrup filters if you want. But you want to strain that. You want to make sure you get out the little bits. Doing this over an open fire, a little bit of ash, a little bit of stuff like that in it. You want to strain all that out and then do your final reduction there, do your final boil down. And there's several tricks on figuring out how, if it's ready or not. I know a lot of what I've read is you look at the temperature. When you can get it to 7 degrees above the boiling water point for your elevation, of course, and barometric pressure. So for us, I think 212 is the boiling point for water. So that'd be about 219. When the solution comes to 219, then it pretty much going to be maple syrup. That doesn't sound as accurate to me. Again, things I've played around with. But what I've also seen is people using hydrometers. And a hydrometer, the way this works, I'll just take this glass here, and obviously it would need to be deeper. But let's say this was full of maple syrup and I drop that hydrometer in. The way that floats, it'll measure. You look at the meniscus, where the water comes up and touches it, makes a kind of a little curved element there. You look at the meniscus, which is the bottom of the curve, and if it's 60 bricks, which bricks is a unit of measurement, that's BRIX, then you know you've got the consistency to call that maple syrup. Now this isn't a maple syrup hydrometer, this is actually a brewing hydrometer, so it doesn't go to 60 bricks, it only goes as high as 35 bricks. So I actually have to get one. A buddy of mine's going to let me borrow his. But that'll be the test. So as it's being boiled down, and when I think I got it somewhere, then I drop that hydrometer in there and it give me a reading on whether it's maple syrup or not. Again, it's just looking for the density of sugar to help this thing float higher in the water, in the solution, and that's how you measure. And then once you have that, then it's time to bottle and put away. So again, it's probably going to be another couple weeks on down the road before I get to the final boil. So I won't wait and release this video until then. I may come back and do an update just to let people know. And obviously we've got to do the taste test, see if the boys like it, see if it tastes like a barrel trash fire, or if it actually tastes like maple syrup. So we'll let you know. We'll keep you posted. Now I've stuck my finger in it and tested it after I've washed my hands, of course. And to me, it tastes like maple syrup. It's just a very watered down maple syrup, but I can taste that sugary taste. Obviously, it looks like maple syrup. It's very dark colored, very tea colored or syrup colored. So I think so far we're on the right track, but we'll keep you updated. So what have I learned with my first foray into making maple syrup? Well, quite a few things, and I really appreciate all the suggestions that were sent to me through our various social media channels. Some people commented on our YouTube videos where we tapped and where we built our evaporator. Got some comments on the website and even on Facebook. So I really appreciate all that. As far as the assessment of the evaporator, it kind of did what I expected to do. It's obviously a small scale. I believe we did about 30 gallons yesterday. Took all day Saturday. It was a real rainy day. So we boiled down about 30 gallons and it took pretty much all day. So that's kind of what I expected. The situation with a fire, with a wood fire, keeping that going, obviously the trick is keeping that fire sustained at a certain intensity. So you get it too hot, you got a big rolling boil, flames are leaping out all over the place, or it's too low and you lose your boil. So some balance there. You can see why a lot of people would go with the propane burners underneath, so you have a constant steady flow of heat, and that would move things along quicker. Again, the two pans, I really liked being able to move those over. If the second pan was where I had a rolling boil most of the time, so I would move the other pan's liquid into that, so everything was always going into pan 2. And that kept me from losing that boil. But I can see where a larger surface area, obviously the more you do things in scale, the faster you're going to be able to get a lot of this done. So if I think about, a buddy of mine's doing 200 gallons, and it's like, my goodness, that would take forever on a setup like this. So again, it all comes back to scale. Some great suggestions on how to improve this burner to keep the heat wrapped around it. A lot of good input, so I'll definitely make those applications next time and see what works well there. One of the things is, obviously rain. Rain kind of pushed us into this project because it's just been a crazy wet February. So we thought, well, we'll be here in the barn. It's going to be raining anyway. We can't do a lot of outside projects, so let's work on this. But of course, that adds a lot of humidity to the air and causes the evaporation of the liquid out of the sap to be prolonged. So a situation there. But all in all, it worked well. Now, again, you think about, is maple syrup production cost effective, Troy? Is it cheaper than just going and buying the good stuff at the store? No. I mean, obviously you'd have to do a lot of volume. You guys that do this professionally and resell it, granted you've amortized all your equipment and you've hopefully moved enough volume to justify all this. But if you look at all that I have here, even in the non-food grade buckets, the equipment to make this a boiler, the trays, the campfire conversion kit, the stovepipe, the IBC tote, I'm probably pushing $300. And right now with my 30 gallons of sap, I'm not even going to get 1 gallon. So you imagine buying 1 gallon of maple syrup for $300 is kind of where we're at right now. And that doesn't even include all the labor. So definitely not a way to save money, but man, it is interesting. And I really enjoyed it. Again, especially on a rainy day. Just kicked it in the camp chair there, got to do a little writing, a little bit of reading, just really enjoyed a rainy day where I'd normally be frustrated because I can't get out and do something. Well, we hope you all enjoyed this video. Be sure to post below your guys' encounters with making maple syrup, how you've enjoyed doing it, or the pitfalls that you ran into, or additional tips so the people watching this can read through that and get some additional pointers. Give us a thumbs up if you like this video. If you haven't, be sure to subscribe. Again, we do videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of the week. They're released at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Check us out on social media at Facebook at facebook.com/Red Tool House Farm. Take care, everybody.